Hello and welcome to another video from Fantasy Football Scouts. This week we are continuing with our series of team reveals. Yes, the teams will change by the time Game Week 1 comes around, but it's a useful insight into some of the key players and strategies to consider. Everyone we're looking at this week has been different team, different strategies. My name is Joe and today I'm joined by Karam to discuss his early Game Week 1 draft for the 2021-22 campaign. Karam, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, Joe. I thought I would have a proper break in the summer, but I have involved myself in the fantasy Euro game,
Yeah.
which I was mad at most of it. But yeah, great to be back to the real game, to the FPL game.
Yes.
I haven't spent too much time tinkering, but I think I have a couple of ideas on how I will start the campaign. Hopefully, I did a better start than last season. It's been a rough one, so it can only get better.
Yes, I know. I mean, what I did, as soon as the game launched, I made a draft and I've changed it a bit, but the basics are pretty much there. And I think I've got about 12 or 13 out of the 15 players haven't changed. It's just pre-season is the bit that's going to alter my view. And obviously, the news changing. But I think I'm sort of set in what I've got. But I'm sure that'll be in a future video. But it's time for your team. And there's a couple of points of difference in your team. So let's put your team up. There we go, and I'll get you to go through it all. Usually we start from the back, but there's a couple of headlines here in your midfield, so we're going to go for that, and also a bit in your defence as well. So the headlines here from your team, everyone can see it. Where's Bruno? There's no Fernandes, and not just one, two City assets. So you're paying double Pep roulette. So explain that decision. Why have you gone for City? I know you're a City fan, but why do you investing double City, knowing what we do about Pep, and how confident are you without Fernandes?
We will never get over the Pep roulette. That's a fact. We gave up. I gave up already predicting the lineups and spending 5 years with Pep to predict the lineups. Yeah, it's I think one of the critical decisions I made is to, for now, go without Bruno Fernandes. I think that the main factor for this decision was the possible absence of Marcus Rashford at the beginning of the campaign because of a surgery he's gonna undergo.
Yeah.
And therefore, you might expect Greenwood to take more minutes than what he got last season, and at 7.5 I think he's a really good asset to have, and that allowed me to somehow be brave and go without Bruno, not because I don't believe in Man United fixture, but because I think Greenwood will offer a better value, not a better value, offer a good value.
Yeah.
And in my consideration, I don't think that I'm gonna captain Bruno for the first 5-6 game weeks. So all these factors is the way that I always play the game. Is, do I need a captain for my 12 million player? If I don't, then I might find another way. And it allowed me to pick really different options than what is mostly common around the Twitter and the YouTube. So for example, like Mahrez, who's only owned by 3.7 million. And there is an idea behind that in Game Week 3, which we'll discuss. We will go into the midfield in deep dive. But yeah, I'm a bit scared from Bruno's start. But I'll be reckoning that Greenwood will try to match him, and that's the main deal. I'm not saying that I'm not going to go without Bruno for the season. I just think that in a start, the difference will not be huge. For about 4.5 million less, that's not too bad.
So who would make way if you wanted to get Fernandes in? Would that be a wild card? Because you've spread that Fernandes money out with the likes of Mahrez, bit more in defence as well. And you've got the likes of Greenwood and Jota as well in your midfield. So the money's spread out. How would you get Fernandes? Say you want Fernandes Game Week 3, for example. How would you get him?
Yeah, it won't be easy. It would most likely mean that I will get rid of one of the strikers to a 4.5.
Yeah.
And I still have, I think, 1 or 1.5 million in the bank, which I'm planning to keep. at least 1 million in the bank, I'm not gonna touch it. So with that in mind, I think I can get to Bruno by say downgrading one of Watkins or Antonio to a 4.5, and then he's in. Or if yeah, it will require more than two transfers
Well, I
otherwise.
don't know if it would. Now
Without
you've told me you've got 1.5 million in the bank here.
yeah,
So that brings Mahrez up to what, 10 and a half?
yeah.
Mahrez's place rather. And then, so you've got to find another couple of million from somewhere. Well,
Mm.
that could be,
Antonio to a
it could be Jota,
5.5 or just
could
yeah,
be
it
could
could
be
be.
Greenwood. It could be one of those strikers as well. For example, Watkins in game week 4, Villa's fixtures fall off a cliff. So you could be
Yeah.
looking at perhaps a 5 million, 5.5. They might emerge, that striker. I've got a couple of. So that was me playing devil's advocate. So how are you going to get him back in? But I've got some stats here to show that you're probably on the right track. First of all, I'll show you the bad stat for the Fernandes. So these are the expected goal involvement. I've been building this up all week, but this is for last season. Salah absolutely top expected goal involvement last season, and indeed he was amazing. And Fernandes second, then Kane, then Vardy, and they're them and Bamford. They're sort of class of their own really, especially Salah and Fernandes. So that's the bad bit there. But then when you look at the fixtures, I think you're onto something here, because you're not going to captain him, are you? So game week 1, you got Salah. Game week 2, Salah would be good. Game week 2, you've got Mahrez, and other people haven't got Mahrez. And then we're looking at Manchester United. I guess Wolves away, maybe. That doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence. Newcastle at home, maybe.
Probably this one.
But then Liverpool away to Leeds is an option. I mean, there are other options. Tottenham at home to just looking down the list here. Tottenham have got Wolves, Watford, and Crystal Palace. They've got a nice run, captaincy. So you could move to Son, for example, from Mahrez. So there's definite options there, and I think Salah is key for the captaincy, and then you've got the likes of Spurs, Manchester City, and Manchester United, and if Manchester United, they play Southampton game week 2, but City have got a good fixture then. Newcastle game week 4, so Greenwood is an option there, and I know you don't necessarily go for the standard pick that the whole of the Twitter sphere go for with the captaincy. So that would fit in with your playing style as well. So I think that's okay. The other thing about Fernandes is that there were rumours, we've got to see in pre-season, that they're going to go with a different type of midfield.
It's like a double eight players, yeah.
So that would mean that Fernandes would be in a more sort of the creative role is, but a sort of a less number 10 role. And then the likes of Rashford when he's fit, Cavani, Greenwood, they would be the ones, and Jadon Sancho when he joins, they'd be the ones who have the goal scoring opportunity. There's always penalties as well, but it's a risk, but it's that ownership risk. If say in a fantasy world of fantasy, say you saw that Fernandes' ownership was 0.1%, would you be scared of not owning him because you think he's going to score lots of goals and penalties, or would you be scared of not owning him because of his ownership?
Well, it's one of the tricky questions and topics to discuss as always. I think the ownership has to be a factor. I can't play with a blind eye, not looking at the ownership.
Yeah.
That's a fact for me. But for your example, if you say 0.1% and he gets me goals and assists, I like points, so I would definitely go for him.
Yeah.
The thing is as you said, the rumors, the preseason rumors suggest that he will play a different role. That might be better, might be worse. We don't really know. I just think with this info, plus the fact that Rashford might miss out the first part of the season, that might mean more minutes for Greenwood.
Yeah.
He has a chance to deliver at 7.5 without captaining him, because I'm not gonna captain a Man United asset for the first few. I'm gonna take the risk. I'm not, as a disclaimer, I'm not saying this is a brilliant idea or follow me. Probably don't try this at home, but it's a way to get myself into decent position, into potentially a decent position. And last season, I started with the triple Liverpool defense, probably the whole community
Yeah.
remembers. And it sort of didn't work out as I wished. And I played the whole season chasing as a result of this, plus a few other decisions in the first 8 game weeks. And then I kind of like to take this risk again and put myself into a decent position, because that's how you want to end up in a top 10k or 1k in my way of playing. So yeah, Fernandez is a dangerous decision, I would say. But with the rest of the team, I think I can do a lot more without Fernandez, and that's
Well,
the whole idea.
what'll be interesting to people looking at this team, well, what you can do with that extra money, and you've spread that out well. Just before we look at some of the other places you spend that money, let's stick with Manchester City. So you've gone from Mahrez and you've got Cancelo there in defence, and your defence with Kufau, Alexander-Arnold and Martinez. So there's a bit of money being spent there. I've got some figures here about Man City last season. So having a look at this, I was looking at things like expected goal involvement, minutes per attempt in the box, goal attempts, and this and expected goals as well. And it's showing that Sterling is perhaps being overlooked, but like Mahrez, there were rumours that he was possibly being on the transfer list. De Bruyne with 80 chances created, 80 goal attempts, is obviously in the running. And that would be the benefit of having Fernandes, that you could perhaps move to De Bruyne, or just start with De Bruyne and then move on to Fernandes if you want. But it shows with that Mahrez there, his expected goal involvement is 10. That's just behind Jesus, and it's about 2/3 of what De Bruyne's is. So he's no slouch, deserving of his price there. There's a couple of other options here I like, Cancelo there for a defender, 6 million. This is why he's there. Expected goal involvement of 7, so that's quite high there, and that's actually higher than the likes of Foden and Torres. And Foden and Torres, would they appeal instead of, say, Greenwood, for example, and Mahrez going for perhaps? I mean, Torres at 7 million. If he ends up being the striker, wow.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. I think the decisions on Man City assets at least could be easier in the first few game weeks, because I personally don't think the Pep will rush in the English players in Man City because of their qualification to the finals of the Euros, and they will come back just 1 week before the season starts. And I think the likes of Mahrez and Torres might start the first few. I'm not sure what is the situation with Gabriel Jesus, because he played Copa America as well. Yes. He should be back before the English players. So I think those three could start the first few, but the long term, I still feel that we're gonna sign a striker. But if we don't, you are talking about 7 million player for the number 9 at Man City. That's a bargain of the season, perhaps. The thing with the Man City, as especially Mahrez and Torres, if you're gonna own them, you have to live with their pain as well. Yeah. And that's the risk that people have to decide whether they take it or just don't play the Pep roulette. Mahrez also is on penalties, as it seems from the end of last season, and somehow I love Kevin De Bruyne, and I definitely have him in part of the season. But I just think in game week 2, where Man City play Norwich, if I look for explosion, then Mahrez is the one, plus penalties. And the main reason of owning Mahrez is I look for a captain in game week 2, but also with that million extra I have, I'm gonna move him in game week 3 to Son and captain him for game week 3 and 4 against Crystal Palace and who he's playing in game week 4. He's a captain option for that Crystal Palace in 4, and Watford in game week 3. Prime captaincy options. And that's why Mahrez is a decent pick at around the 9 million. I don't think I've seen many drafts with players at 9 million category.
No.
And there are decent players that could be overlooked in that bracket. And I can switch between Mahrez, Son, Grealish afterwards, maybe for 8 million, rather than stucking somehow in the 6.5 category, which I think they will offer a good value in a long term. But yeah, I like this range of prices where
I
it's a
think,
bit.
yeah, I mean, I've got Fernandes and Salah in my team, and it does restrict you as well. And if I did want, say, for example, Kane or a Son or Mahrez, I mean, I would have to think about selling one of them, as you've already just decided. So I don't think it's as odd as it looks to see a team without Fernandes, and it's one of those things that you'll see waves of opinion about it on Twitter. Bruno's essential to maybe not. Currently, though, I do think Salah is essential. I think that he's got the fixtures, he's got the form, he's already back in training, and a lot of the players you've mentioned as well. So say Jesus, for example, not that he's in your side. He's coming back late, isn't he? And there's various other players that are involved in the Olympics. There's also the risk of COVID still. It's out there. So, I mean, as I speak at the moment, our Prime Minister, Health Secretary, Leader of the Opposition and Chancellor of the Exchequer are all isolating. So they're of that level, not football level, but they're of that level politically, all isolating. That's going to happen with footballers when they start coming back, drifting back over the summer. So it's quite a strong. It pays perhaps to have a strong bench, and that's something that you haven't got so much in this setup. So let's start about Martinez. What's your thought with Martinez? You happy
I
with
would
that?
say he's probably one of the best goalkeepers in the league.
What if he gets COVID and can't play though?
Yeah, then I'm stuck. There's no other way. And I hope he doesn't get it in game week 1. But in the backup, I gave a little thought about it. I know Backman, he's the main goalkeeper for Watford. But we've seen with Southampton last season, if one of the goalkeepers with the McCarthy or Forster has a bad run, then the manager doesn't hesitate to replace him. And I think if Backman had a terrible start, he has an experienced goalkeeper he can use. So for me, Forster is way above the other 4.0 goalkeepers like Steele or whoever from the promoted teams, because he's just kind of, I'm waiting for my chance. If he has a bad couple of games, then I can be in.
Yeah.
And then I can get a playing goalkeeper all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Okay. Then so it might be a way to play.
Also,
to play this way.
Game week 4. I was going to say game week 4. Villa's fixtures drop off a cliff. So they're great game weeks 1 to 3. What's the plan then? Just stick right in through it. Hope you get saves.
Well, I mean, if things go terrible, I might wildcard by game week 4, and then I have a decision to bring in Backman or whoever plays for Watford goalkeeper. I think Martinez has shown even this summer in Copa America how good he is. He's been a very good stopper. He kept quite a few clean sheets in a national team that is not used to have a good defense in general. And one of the main reasons for Argentina to win Copa America is they have been always one goalkeeper away from winning Copa America, and that's Martinez. And I think with the way he perform even in Copa America, he's done a lot of saves, kept clean sheets, and I don't see that stopping. 186 points this last season. I don't think that this will happen again. But for 5.5, if you give me 160. I will take that. I don't know if Sanchez would be close to that number. For 1 million extra, it might be worth a play. We know the way Brighton defend; they don't concede a lot of shots on target, but it's like either 6 or 7 points or 2. Martinez can rack up 3-4 points even with conceding. So, in a way, I want to play the Martinez game, and he burned me a lot last season. So there is a kind of, okay, I'm not gonna play with the fire this season with Salah and Martinez, and I'm gonna start with both of them.
Okay.
But yeah, Martinez could be having a great season as well.
It could be. I mean, it could be great. They've got the first 3 fixtures are great, so it could help get off to a flyer. We've already mentioned Kufau in a lot of these videos, and we know what he's about, getting assist potential. West Ham's fixtures are quite good. You've got Alexander-Arnold there. We don't need to dwell on why you've got him. It's obvious. But the question I will ask is I asked Gianni in a previous video, because he had double Liverpool defence. You famously had triple Liverpool defence last year. Is one of the reasons you're not going double Liverpool defence is just because it's just not a strategy you fancy? Or are you tainted by what happened last season, and and perhaps might this season be missing out, considering they've got a lot of good defenders back?
It's kind of both, actually. Last season, the main mistake I made was going without Salah. And I think I was betting on a strategy where the triple defense will offer clean sheets and goals and assists and great value that can replace Salah, while I owned Sterling at the beginning of the season, which has done okay, but was not as good as Salah in that period of time. And I think there is no better captain option in game week 1 than Salah. And that's why I definitely dropped the triple Liverpool defense. And I actually like Jota for the start of the season.
Well, I was just about to come to him. Why Jota?
I think Firmino has played a lot in Copa America until the finals. So he might come in late. And I think Jota will start the first few, just like Mahrez and the rest of the players who were knocked out early, because Portugal left from round 16. I think Jota can start game week 1, definitely. Maybe the first 2 or 60, 70 minutes. So Firmino, I think he will be integrated slowly into the season. And I can take an advantage for that. So I'm going for triple Liverpool defense. It's very close between Jota 7.5 and Robertson at 7 million. But I think there are decent options in defense at 5.5, 6 million, even 4.5 that can give me options, while I might not find that in midfield. So that's why I opted for a double attack versus double defense. I'm not sure whether Van Dijk will start the season from the beginning or not, but Liverpool had problems last season. How do they resolve it? That's a question I need to see before I invest heavily in their defense.
Look, staying with Jota as well, I've put up the fixtures again up on the screen to show that if you want to run away from Jota, that's the easiest thing you can do in this game this season, because there's so many 6 million, 6.5 or similarly priced 7 million or so midfielders there. I mean, just looking at Brighton, you could go for the likes of Trossard or Gross. Looking at Watford, you've got Sarr. Everton, not sure what's going to happen there, but could be Rodriguez could be back and firing. Arsenal, you've got the likes of Saka, Smith Rowe are cheaper, and it goes on down the list as well. And of course Leeds, absolutely jam packed full of them. Rafinha, Harrison. So the first couple of fixtures, Leeds have Manchester United and Everton. Then they've got Burnley, Liverpool, tough one. Then Newcastle, West Ham, Watford, and Southampton. So there's definitely the option there to move down and save a bit of money, getting the likes of Harrison or Rafinha. I could go on. Leicester have got Maddison, and it goes on and on. And I think there's a lot of potential there. And I haven't even got to the Chelsea midfielders yet. So I quite like your setup. I mean, it's not what I would start with, but that doesn't mean that I don't like it. And I almost wish I would start with that, because your team has got those points potential and the money spread around really nicely. Let's move to attack. Tony, Antonio and Watkins. Well, I'm going to say the bad bits first. Tony, I've got no idea what he's like in the Premier League. He's never kicked a Premier League ball in his life. Antonio, he has kicked a Premier League ball and then his leg smashes each time he does that. And Watkins, his fixtures fall off a cliff from game week 4. So I anticipate you might make some changes there. What's your plans for that striker force?
I would say that I'm most likely gonna stick with those 3 for the start of the season. I didn't have to tinker too much about those players, to be honest. For some reason, they were kind of picking themselves. Watkins, I think I never owned last season, so you can imagine how terrible my season was. But the first 3 are really good for Watford, Newcastle, and Brentford. And he is one of the players who, at the end of last season, he was sticking with the points, never blanking. So he's getting better and better the longer he stays in the Premier League. And I think he will start the league strong with those fixtures in hand. And then I can decide to move him on, because the fixtures are really hard afterwards. And then by that time, I'll get to know which strikers are the ones to own. With that 7.5 million, if I have 0.5, I can go to DCL. I can go to Iheanacho if we find out that he keeps up his performance. I think he's the main miss, actually. I wish I have 4 spots for strikers. I think he's one to consider as well. Antonio, I mean, I like him. And
Yeah.
if he's fit,
Yeah,
he's
this is 2 words,
unstoppable.
isn't it? If fit.
If fit, yeah, he's unstoppable. With a lot of talks about transfers with the West Ham, I'm not sure how this will impact the formation of the team if they sign another striker, or it will be Antonio himself. But for the first few, you're talking about in Newcastle, Leicester is not bad for West Ham. It might be goal fest in this game, and Crystal Palace and Southampton. So the first 4 at least
Yeah.
are really good. Tony is I hope he will be an improved version of Pookie. But yeah, his numbers from the championship are great. He's the penalty taker for Brentford as well, and it seems like Brentford are really good attacking side, or they adopt the attacking mentality to say the least. So I like to have him at 6.5. If he delivers, that's great. He might get up to 6.8, 6.9 come game week 3 and 4 because many people will buy him. But if he doesn't, then I can move him straight away, either as a part of a wild card or 2 transfers.
There's lots
I
of
think
choices,
those
isn't there?
3. Yeah, I think the harder part is to get to one of the premium ones.
Yes. You're anticipating my next question. So far, all of these team reveals have had cheap to mid-price strikers. No Vardy, no Kane. What's your maybe get Vardy or Kane plan?
Vardy, I don't know if I will own him ever again. I think I was burned really, really hard last season with Vardy. But yeah, every season has his own history. He's the history in the past, that season in the past. But anyway, Vardy and Kane are really hard to get, I must admit. I don't think that even 2 transfers with this money spread, is doable unless I drop Mahrez and Jota and Antonio, for example, to get Kane and a couple of 6 million midfielders, and this will not look as cool. I think this will change a lot if, as per the rumors, if Kane moves to another Premier League side, especially City, who might get him, I don't know. Then this will
if I was
change.
a Manchester City fan and Harry Kane moved to my side, I'd be
do everything. Yeah,
I'd be moving. I'd say to my team, "You lot out." Harry's in.
Imagine Kane gets benched by Pep Roulette, like for Jesus or
I would press
the
button, turn my computer off, take the dog out for a walk, and not look at my team again.
That is still not bad. I think many will delete their teams. But anyway, yeah, I mean, Kane at City will appeal more, I would say. But yeah, he's still a great asset. I think against Wolves, Watford, and Crystal Palace from game week 2 to 4 are really good options. But I think owning Son might be just enough, unless same last season scenario happens again. With Son assisting Kane and Kane assisting Son, then we are in problem. But I think it's gonna be difficult for sure. Okay. If I look at the top scorers for forwards from last season, Kane and Vardy first and third, but then the rest are budget strikers. Yeah. So there is also a case. I mean, Kane was ridiculous last season. There is no way you can match him up for points and value last season. But will he do it again this season? Maybe, maybe not. But Bamford at 8 million, Chris Wood, our friend, 7 million. I mean, those players, those picks, if they get sort of like 140 to 180 points, that's decent for value. Yeah. So in a way, I'm tempted to start without a premium striker unless something extraordinary happens, like Kane of last season happens again. Then we have to find a way, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the expected goal involvement stats up on the screen. I put them up earlier to look at Salah and Fernandes, but it shows exactly what you're saying about Kane in a bit of a world of his own there. Expected goal involvement on a par with the likes of Salah and Fernandes. 30 big chances. And then Vardy's just behind him. And then you're right, you've got the likes of Bamford in terms of the strikers. You've got Calvert-Lewin, you've got Watkins, so we can see why he's there. I was a bit. It might have come across I was dismissive about your front three. That's my front three as well. That's exactly what I've gone for. I've also got a bit of money in the bank in case I'm wrong. But I do think there is a lot of value in those strikers. So I can see why we're getting so many of these team reveals with those players. But yeah, it's Harry Kane is the moment where I may wildcard, or it'd probably be, in my case, Fernandes would go. And in yours, probably more of a wildcard because you spread that around. Going back to your team here, just before we go, we've got the cheap seats. So you've got Foster, Ben Foster on the bench, non-player. You've got Williams at Manchester United. There's so many Williams and it's a red shirt, so I'm looking at that. So I'm presuming that's Brandon Williams, the 4.0 defender, Manchester United. He may go to Southampton on loan. But then you have got Lamptey, who is a great first sub, attacking threat, and Brownhill. Now, this is a question. I, hand on heart, had Brownhill in before he scored a brace against Salford. I am aware that people will go, what are you talking about? Salford? What's that? But anyway, Brownhill scored a brace in a friendly against Salford for Burnley. Did you get him in after that? Did you get him in after that or before?
Why you put me in a difficult situation? Yes.
Yes, good.
I've got Gilmore for majority of since the game launched. I had him because when he was at Chelsea, I had him as well. I anticipated his move as per the news coming up a few weeks ago. When he moved, I think he will play a major part, but I think he is more of a CMDM. Brownhill can chip in with some contribution, and when I saw the 2 goals, I was like, oh yeah, forgot about him. I haven't actually followed the 4.5s a lot. I just picked Gilmore based on my knowledge, but then Brownhill, he played. How is he 4.5? He could be 5 million actually. So that's why he's in. And I think he will play. He's nailed on probably. So I don't think I will start him manually unless he comes in off the bench.
Even if he hadn't scored against the mighty Salford, he's a great option because of his ownership. Now, the people watching this and the people following the FPL community on Twitter are just a very small percentage of the millions that play FPL. And I looked at, say, Basuma's ownership, it's huge, and I anticipated Gilmore, because he's well known, would be quite huge, and so I'm looking for my 4.5 is that hopefully they'll play and they're not going to lose me too much value because their ownership would be so low. There isn't too many people to get rid of them, and I think Brownhill fits in that category. Unless millions of people get him in because he scored a brace against Salford. I doubt it though. Another player to consider, Gibbs White. He's also been in my team, and I don't. We don't know how he's going to fit in, but he should get at least minutes at Wolves. Wolves fixtures become good game week 4, so he's another one to consider. Could be in an attacking role as well. I like this team. I like headlines there. No Bruno. Triple
more City than anybody else.
Double.
I think
City.
Cancelo will be a nice makeway for Shaw because of the news. I had Shaw at the beginning, I must admit, but with the news that he might be having or carrying on an injury, I just said, okay, Cancelo, direct replacement, and then I can move him back to Shaw when I have certainty. But I think I played the fact that Walker, as the English players in the team, might start late with Man City, so at least I can get the first 2. And Cancelo, we've seen his last season, he was only behind Alexander-Arnold and Robertson for expected goals involvement, and he can be that guy who can keep a clean sheet, who plays in a team that can keep a clean sheet against any team, but also he can chip in with the goals and assists. He had the full summer off. He didn't play with Portugal because of COVID. And he could be very fresh for the start of the campaign. So I hope that he comes in as a nice punt for the start of the season.
No, it's a good looking team there. Karam, thanks so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure to look at your Game Week 1 sides. Good luck in Game Week 1 and good luck with the season ahead. Thanks a lot, Karam.
Cheers, Joe. Cheers, everyone.